Coyle I gave an A+ to, and I think sometimes maybe we at this point we're not even giving him as much credit as he deserves for how big a factor he's been in the Bruins being where they are at the midway point, given how well he's played at center. Welcome to another edition of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. I believe this is the 61st episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. I'm your host, Joe Haggerty. As always, you can find my work at joehaggerty.substack.com. Anything I write about the NHL and the Bruins will get sent straight directly to your inbox if you sign up for the newsletter. I also cover the Bruins for the Boston Sports Journal, write columns after every single Bruins game this week, obviously writing columns with no games. And actually this week, and it should be going up on Friday, doing a report card with grades. With me today, a good buddy and colleague, Steve Conroy. I believe you did some grades as well in the Boston Herald, right, Steve?
Yes, I did. Now you're going to try and make me remember them.
This is a pop quiz that I wish I told you to prepare for. But we will prepare for thanking our sponsors, FanDuel Sportsbook. With the Super Bowl coming up, why not celebrate with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book? If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday's awesome. You sit on the couch, have some nachos, watch the halftime show. Used to watch the Patriots, not so much anymore. But this year, I feel like it's going to be a lot more about like the Taylor Swift cam and everything else. But either way, the Super Bowl is a great time to get involved with FanDuel Sportsbook. They have so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl on Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for players scoring touchdowns, points, so much more. And I'm sure there will be Taylor Swift prop bets all over the place. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up. All right, and let's also thank Factor Meals, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Meals ready in 2 minutes or less. Delicious meals, chef approved or chef made, dietitian approved. Head to factormeals.com/Haggs50 and use code Haggs50 to get 50% off your first box. All right, before we get into the grades, Steve, just real quick, NHL All-Star weekends. They had the fantasy drafts. They announced who's going to be in the, all the skills stuff. I'm glad they went back to that draft format. It's still like a little wonky because they're trying to like get by on some players that don't seem like they want a microphone in their face. Certainly Justin Bieber didn't seem like he wanted a microphone in his face last night. But I still think there's some fun in it. I like the Justin Bieber designed jerseys. I like that they are doing that fantasy draft again with the players. And I like that they're trying to make it like sort of a fun thing with the acknowledgement that, the All-Star weekend is more about like the kids and the sponsors. It's not about like the adults that are actually watching this, or us media for that matter.
Yeah, I have to admit, I did not tune into it. That's how much I like fun.
I had Finn watched it last night. He was into it. He liked the jerseys. Like that's the target audience for all that stuff is the 10-year-old hockey players out there and the hockey fans. I will admit, like the actual game itself, the fact that Draisaitl and Pasternak and McDavid are all going to be playing on the same team together, I think that's going to be pretty interesting.
If you say so.
See, the people right now are getting a window into like what we are like, the media's like when we go to these NHL All-Star weekends, and we're kind of like rolling our eyes the whole time watching this. Like, why are we here?
It's not something that floats my boat. To the whole NHL vibe credit, I don't think anybody cares about the All-Star game, as opposed to the NBA where it's like bigger than the playoffs.
Yes. No, it's true. Like I said, the only people that care, I think, about NHL All-Star game are like the kids. Like I remember being a kid and being into all the All-Star games when I was a kid and watching them and being in awe of the players and all that stuff. It is cool when you go to them. I remember the one in Montreal a ways back, that one when Ovechkin famously had like the shades on when he was doing the shootout, and I think Gordie Howe was there. And it was like it was a pretty cool collection of like great players, and it was a good vibe in Montreal. And like some of them are better than others. as far as that stuff
That
goes.
one was a good one. That's the one I always remember. They gave out the hats with the ear flaps on it.
I was actually in my
And
basement getting Finn's lacrosse stuff today, and I came across that hat. It's still
yeah,
there.
and we needed it that weekend. I remember. I think everybody was wearing it.
That's right. It was nice. It was good hockey weather in Montreal that weekend. Very cold and snowy. All right. But tune into the All-Star game. Should be interesting. We'll see how it goes. Let's get into the grades. Let's not waste any more time. And the grades are going to be really good. This is what I segued into the grades with in the report card. 31-9-9, first in the Atlantic Division, first team to get to 70 points. Like, they've been lights out since Christmas. So this is not going to be a lot of D's and F's and as far as the players go on this. By and large, excellent. David Pastrnak, I gave him an A, on pace for 55 goals and 120 points, playing almost 20 minutes a game. Leads all NHL players with 248 shots on net. You know, obviously there's turnovers from time to time, but there's not really much more you could ask from him.
No. I mean, he's before they started scoring at a regular pace as they are now. I mean, he carried the team offensively, and he's an A+ for me, no question about it.
Brad Marchand, Marchand and Pastrnak, even though you're right, they carried the offense for a while, and now they're getting secondary scoring and other people are kicking in. But they still both had, Marchand and Pastrnak, 11 goals in the month of January, and they were just both on fire. And Marchand in particular has had some very important goals, some very timely goals that were the difference between winning and losing. There's been a few times already this year where he's just kind of thrown the team on his back and just refused to go out easily or to lose, for the team to lose. He's on pace right now for 40 goals. First time he would ever get there if he does. And I think it's only the second time he would hit 30 goals in like the last 5 years, and like 79 points or something like that. I give him an A+, just from the production standpoint, from doing this at 35 years old, from being the captain of the team and taking over with Bergeron retiring. I think, I don't know how much better Marchand could be than he's been in the first half of this year.
Yeah, I mean, in the early going, it seemed like he was getting his points on will, basically, because he had no chemistry with anybody.
Yep.
Early on in the season, and he still produced, obviously not at a rate that Pastrnak produced, but he still produced at the rate that you say. And also, I gave him an A+, out of because of his leadership. I mean, he's a first-time captain on a team that could go a whole bunch of different ways.
Yep.
And here they are back at the top of the league. So I gave him an A+ as well.
And there's a couple A+ in this report card. The next one, Charlie Coyle, on pace for career highs, 30 goals, 70 points. Like, will blow away his career highs if he has a second half like his first half. He's taken almost 900 faceoffs, leads the team by a wide margin, is in the top 10 in the NHL. Has gotten some chemistry with Marchand. The two of them have become very good working partners together. Plays in every high leverage situation, has, I think, become a very steadying and underrated leader in that dressing room as well, leading by example and just sort of the tone that he sets every single day. Coyle, I gave an A+ to, and I think sometimes maybe at this point we're not even giving him as much credit as he deserves for how big a factor he's been in the Bruins being where they are at the midway point, given how well he's played at center.
Yeah, he's been very good. I think I gave him an A or an A-, just because of his feast of famine in the face-off circle. One night he's tremendous. The other nights he can't win a draw.
Yeah.
So that's got to even out a little bit at some point. Yeah, I have always kind of thought that there was nothing in his skill set that kept him away from being a top 6 center. It was the fact that I don't want to say he was starstruck when he got up there, but he was way too deferential to the guys, the stars that he played with. Whether it would be, with Marchand or Pastrnak or whoever he would play with, he would be far too deferential. And, I felt that for a long time. And Jim Montgomery, also voiced that, when I asked him, maybe 3 weeks ago, how he turned the corner. So yeah, he's in the A stratosphere.
No question about it. Charlie McAvoy had a really rough month of November. Was a bit better in December. Really has been excellent in January. Plus 17 in January for McAvoy. And it's not coincidental that when he had the rough November, that was the stretch where they lost 3 in a row, gave up 17 goals, and looked probably the worst that they've looked all season. And I think that's how important McAvoy is to just this team and how they can play. And so much falls on his shoulders for the defenseman work he does, playing in all situations, playing big minutes, on pace for 12 goals and 55 points. While averaging close to 25 minutes. I gave him an A-. Just took a few points off because he struggled early in the year. You could even put him in the B category because, he was a minus player and he struggled so much. But I think by and large, when you look at him now, he's on track, and I'd give him an A-.
Yeah, I think I gave him a B+ on my report card, just because, he was minus 13 or something for a month.
Yep.
That's a good chunk of the season.
Yep.
I think he was very skittish coming off that suspension.
Yep.
A little hesitant to use the body, hesitant to play his game the way he usually does. But he's past that now, so I gave him a B+.
Yeah, no doubt. I think B+, A-. I think that's absolutely in that range is right on. James Van Riemsdyk on pace for 13 goals, 52 points. $1 million contract for 1 year, a great signing value-wise by Don Sweeney. I think he's been excellent in front of the net as advertised for the stuff that they needed him for. Would you like to see a couple more goals? Sure. And that's why I gave him a B, but I think he's been, pretty much what they thought they were going to get at the start of the year.
Yeah, I would like to see more goals. I think he's at a career low shooting percentage at like 7.9%. He's had a lot of chances in front of the net, and he's only got 8 goals. So I think I gave him a B-.
Yep. Pavel Zacha, been solid. Certainly they rely on him quite a bit. Just like they rely on Charlie Coyle. I don't know. He has not been as good as Charlie Coyle, as consistently good. At times they've moved him off moved him off center and put him at wing. He's obviously a skill player, and I think he's started to build chemistry with Pastrnak when he's played with him, and that's been good. And he's obviously made some really good plays this year and been noticeable at times. But I think he's on pace for like 17 goals, 50 points. I think you would probably want a little bit more out of him. Just all around production wise, and shooting the puck more too. I don't think he's shooting the puck enough when I looked at those numbers, which has kind of been a knock on him in the past. And he's going to need to on this team. I gave him a B-.
I think I gave him a little better than that, just because he's a guy who wins battles all over the ice.
Yep.
He's a guy who, he works his tail off whenever, whatever situation he's in. They tell him at the start of the season, you're playing with David Pastrnak. And then, they say, oh, what? Maybe you're not playing with David Pastrnak. And he doesn't change,
Yep.
He just keeps going along. I think I gave him a B.
Yeah, that's right on. Trent Frederick on pace for career highs, 20+ goals, 50 points. I think he's gained the trust of the coaching staff. They're playing him a little bit more at center now. I think they have confidence that he can actually drive a line at times with the way that he's playing now. He's really turned the corner and upped his game consistency-wise, being a much bigger factor offensively and just all around. I gave him an A-, and really watching him now, I'm curious to watch him in the postseason, because I think he's the kind of player that could be a bigger factor given his size and strength and given the confidence level and the level he's playing at offensively now.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, because he did not have a good playoff last year.
Yep.
I think I gave him an A- as well. I'd have to double check on that. But yeah, I mean, he's now been trusted in every situation. He plays power play, kills penalties, plays on the wing, plays center, has been up on the top line, has been on the fourth line. He's a guy that almost epitomizes the Bruins right now with the versatility that they have throughout the lineup.
Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today and you get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Jake DeBrusk, really tough first few months where nothing was going in for him. I think the contract stuff and the uncertainty beyond this year played a part in that for sure. But he's streaky as well. We all know that. Really it was doing some other things, killing penalties, but was not a factor offensively. And it was obvious. It was really obvious watching that, how much that played into some of the Bruins offensive struggles in the first half. When you look at the numbers of what their record is and how the Bruins do when he puts up points in a game or he scores goals in a game, I think he's very much tied into them having success, him getting off offensively and being another option. Now at this point, he's caught fire since Christmas. He's on pace for like 20 goals and 42 points on the season, which would be Jake DeBrusk territory as far as stats go. Not his best year, but certainly in the neighborhood. And I think, given the way he's playing now, could be primed for a much hotter, more productive, better second half, and those numbers could go up from there. But the inconsistency, the really slow start, I gave him a C+.
I give him a B- just because he's still a good player when he's not scoring, which was not the case in his first few years.
Yep.
He still played well defensively. You need more goals from him. There's no question about it. And he's heating up now. I gave him a B-. I think he's a more useful player when he's not scoring than he once was.
No, definitely. There's no question. You notice him more. He's, battling more for pucks. There's not as many flybys. The penalty killing aspect, it helps a lot too, that he's contributing there and doing something.
Yep.
In addition to the 5-on-5 play and the power play. So yeah, I think that's right on. Morgan Geekie on a pace for career highs in goals and points with 13 goals and 38 points at his current pace. Shown an ability to excel in top 6 roles or bottom 6 roles. Very versatile, to your point about the identity of this Bruins team. There are a lot of guys that can play different positions, play up and down the lineup. And I think he's another guy, his size, his strength, he's bigger than you think he is. He's like 6'3", 210, 215. And second and third effort to make plays happen offensively, I think is going to play in the playoffs as well. I think he's going to help them with his style of play and the way that he plays. He was another excellent under-the-radar free agent signing from Don Sweeney. I gave him a B, which could even go to a B+.
Yeah, I was in that range too. He started very slowly. It took him a while to adjust to the a new system and everything. Missed 3 weeks with an injury, but he's really kind of found his way. He's another guy who plays center, but he's got to improve on his face-offs a little bit. But yeah, he's what they say in hockey. He's hard to play against.
Big Saskatchewan boy, hard to play against.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's been a great pickup for them. Pretty good price at $2 million. Yep. Got a heavy shot that you wouldn't think of with the guy who's basically been a career fourth liner up until this point. But he's shown that, and he's been a good player, and I'd put him in the B range somewhere.
Yep, and it's a variation on a theme where there's a lot of Bruins, the center types that do need to work on their face-offs, not just like there's a few other guys, most definitely. And I honestly wonder if that's something they're going to have to look at the trade deadline, is bringing in a veteran guy that can win face-offs when you need them to, in a bottom 6, fourth line kind of thing. Hampus Lindholm, not a great first half. I think part of that was due to just their general struggles puck possession wise, and the Bruins have defensemen having to think defense first rather than really being assertive or feeling the freedom to create plays offensively. But I just don't think he played well in the first half either. He did have one rough third period pinch recently that caught the eye of Jim Montgomery afterwards, but in January, 10 assists in 14 games and a +14. I think by and large played a much better brand of hockey. This month looked much more like himself. I gave him a C, but that could have even gone a little higher with the month that he had, but I couldn't ignore the struggles he had in the first half.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he struggled early on. Didn't get his first goal until I think November 14th or something. His first point didn't come till just before that. For a guy who's not expected to put up 50 some odd points every year like he did last year, but a guy who's has to contribute offensively. That was a really slow start.
Danton Heinen. I, I the one thing I would say about him more than anything else is watching him now, he is a much better player than he was when he was here the first time around. Much more of a factor, much more noticeable, much more involved in the flow of the game and assertive, and a better two-way player. Is on pace for, I think, right around 10 goals and 20 points. And when you look at what he's done and what he's been able to do and how he's been a factor, while also being a guy they picked up off the street for a tryout in training camp. Another good value signing and acquisition for Don Sweeney and the Bruins front office. I give him a B+.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The thing I noticed more than anything is his tenacity on the puck.
Yep.
His battle level is much higher than it once was, and that goes a long way, especially for the player that he now has to be in the National Hockey League.
Matt Patra, this is an interesting one. I gave him a B. Obviously exceeded all expectations by making the team out of camp. Helped them in the early going with his offensive play when they were really figuring things out at the center position. Went to World Juniors, played for Team Canada, had a decent World Juniors, pretty good. Is coming back now and is obviously in a place where I think at times I think he's going to be hard pressed to deal with the intensity of the NHL in the second half of the season. And I don't know if his confidence is what it was in the first half as well. He's certainly not hurting them when he's in there, I think, but he's not really making as many plays as he did in the first few months of the season as well. Going to be interesting to see where he ends up in the second half, but I gave him a B.
Yeah, I gave him a B-. I mean, that's kind of a tough grade for a 19-year-old kid who makes the team. He made the team because they needed him at that point, and he provided something that they needed. Both Zacha and Coyle were still trying to figure out how to play in the higher in the lineup of Zacha over at center. And they needed a third line center, and he provided a spark for them. Geeky has since emerged as a third line center, and Frederick has been able to play third line center. So yeah, I mean, his production has gone way down. He's been banged up a couple of times, and I think he's got to be dealing with that shoulder thing for the rest of the season. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but I mean, that could be something where could curtail a lot of his production, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I think that's part of being a pro and be the jump and making the jump to juniors to pros is like playing through stuff like that and like dealing with those kind of things and taking hits that from bigger, stronger players when you're 19 years old. Like all that stuff is a lot to ask and a huge adjustment. Kevin Shattenkirk, I gave him a C+. I think he's been good. I think he's been good value, on pace for 8 goals and 22 points. I think he gives you an option at point on the power play. If you want to give a different look, I think he's been a perfectly fine third pair defenseman. Obviously, there's going to be some defensive D-zone issues and at times turnover issues because he tries to make things happen offensively. But C+ by and large been a pretty good player.
Yeah, I think I gave him a C+ as well. He's all the positive things that you mentioned are true. He's a crafty player in the offensive zone. They just spend too much time in the defensive zone sometimes. Too many extended shifts in the defensive zone when he's on the ice at times.
Brandon Carlo, one of the NHL league leaders with a +23 this year, has had a decent year offensively as far as kicking in here and there. And obviously been his strong self on the PK and a shutdown guy in most situations. And I've noticed since he came back from the injury, that he's even a little nastier and a little surlier at times than he was before. And he's showing a little bit more of that, especially in the D zone, than I'm used to seeing from him. And that's something that I would love to see even more out of Brandon Carlo, because I think that's only going to help them down the stretch and come playoff time. I gave him an A-, and honestly, I think he's probably been, from beginning of the year to now, they're consistently their best defenseman as far as giving them exactly what they need every night, and you know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, he's exact. Of any of the D-men, he has filled his role to to the highest of his capabilities. I hadn't had him for an A. He's been very good. It's not really reflected in a explosion of points, but his offensive instincts are getting better.
Yep.
Knowing when to jump into the play, when to throw the puck on net, all those things. So yeah, he's definitely an A for me. He's been a rock back there, especially when at a time when their best defensemen, McAvoy and Lindholm, were not playing well.
Johnny Beecher, 5 goals, good on faceoffs, helped on the penalty kill, but was sent down to Providence a couple weeks ago. 27 shots on net in 39 games. I don't know if he was consistently hard-nosed enough as a fourth-line center for what they were looking for. I don't know if he was just making enough happen consistently for what they wanted as a fourth-line center. But obviously they wanted him to work on some things when they sent him down to Providence. And I think Boquist has actually been very good and kind of shows you what a veteran could do in a role like that since he came up. I gave him a C+.
Yeah, I'm in that range too. You're right. He just didn't bring it, consistently enough, and wasn't noticeable consistently enough, especially for a guy with that size and width who possesses that kind of speed. If he wasn't waiver exempt, then he'd probably still be here, right? I don't think they would have put him on waivers if he had to go through that. But they can do that, so they did it. Boquist made him expendable, and it's amazing the transformation of Boquist from training camp to the first couple of games he saw early in the season to now. He's a completely different player. He knows where he's going. He knows how to use his speed, and he's going to the right spots. He's been a revelation.
He has, and I think he and Geeky, those kind of guys, show you how important it is to be patient with veteran players going to a new team and a new group and a new system and all that, and them getting acclimated and comfortable to show you what they can actually do rather than making snap judgments early in the season or in preseason. Because you're right, Boquist was not really noticeable. Matt Grzelcyk, this was probably one of the tougher grades. I ended up giving him a C-. His numbers are okay. He's averaged 17.45 a game of ice time. He's kind of bounced between third pairing, top 4, bounced all over the place. And I wonder if injuries are a factor with him as well. But I just don't think he's looked as good this year as he has in the past. And, I think it's reflected in the grade.
Yeah, he started really well, especially when they gave him the different responsibility on the PK. Then he got hurt. He came back. He didn't play well when he came back. Now I think his game is coming back. He had one, I forget which game, maybe it was the Colorado game, where he had a bad turnover that didn't blow up on them.
Yeah.
The game in Boston. But he's been better since. Probably since the whole team has gotten better at the start of January, late December. I'm in the C range on him.
We do have Factor Meals to help us out. America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit when it does get busy, when it does get crazy, when we do need a quick meal. They fuel you up fast with flavorful and nutritious ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Takes less than 2 minutes to cook them. They're fresh, never frozen, meals ready in 2 minutes, like I said. They have calorie-conscious options, going upscale with some of the things they're offering now, like surf and surf meal options, roasted garlic filet mignon, and shrimp and Cajun spiced shrimp and salmon, which is like right in my wheelhouse. This is the kind of stuff I'm all about. So it's got everything for everybody. There's 34 plus chef prepared, dietitian approved weekly options for meals. You can get snacks, you can get breakfast items. Like it's a great deal. So if you want to get Factor meals, go to factormeals.com/Haggs50 and use the code Haggs50 to get 50% off of your first box. It's a great deal. I've tried it. It's fantastic. I recommend it to you. We love these ready to make meal kits, especially when we're on the go with our kids. So one more time, that's factormeals.com/Haggs50 to get 50% off your first box. You won't be sorry if you go to Factor Meals. It gets the Haggs thumbs up seal of approval.
Jacob Loco, gave him a B. Obviously went a long time without scoring a goal in offensive production. Had to wear that the cage for a while after he got the cut with the skate blade. He's had some good moments. Certainly he's had some moments where he's brought some energy. I think he could do it more consistently as far as the energy goes and being a factor on that fourth line. I think it's a tough ask for all those young guys to play fourth line roles where, sometimes I think veterans have a better feel for playing in that type of role and they're sort of learning on the job. So I gave him a B, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I think I gave him a C plus just because you go that long, 38 games or whatever it was without a goal. And you're right. There's only so much energy you can bring when you're wearing that cage. But yeah, I gave him a C plus. I think he can bring more, and I think he will bring more.
Yeah, definitely. And he's another guy I want to watch come playoff time if he can start to figure out the right side of the discipline and agitating other teams and getting them to do stupid things and sort of raising the temperature of the games. I think he could be good for all that stuff. Mason Lowry, I gave him a C because I think he's been good. He shouldn't have even, he was there because of injuries. I think that they would rather have had him down in Providence all year, sort of working on his craft. Out of necessity, he's been called up. He's definitely shown his skill at times. You've seen the offensive capabilities and the potential there, but I think there's obviously other parts of the game, defensive zone, and just being a good NHL pro and sort of understanding situations that I think he has to figure out at the AHL before he's going to be the complete package.
Yeah, he's challenged in the defensive zone. There's no question about it. There are too many times where it just doesn't get out. The puck just doesn't get out, and the right pass doesn't get made. And that's a learning curve. Hopefully he'll figure it out. If he doesn't figure it out, then he might make a really good wing. But his stick skills are amazing. Even just watching him at practice, warming up before practice, the things he does with the puck, it's pretty amazing.
It really is. And there's a whole generation of kids coming up that can do that stuff, and it's so much fun to watch all the skill work that they do. He definitely has that. You see it in games and in practice. So you hope he can figure everything else out, because I think he could be a legit weapon on the back end once he rounds out his game a little bit. Oscar Steen, I gave him a D. This was a tough one. I just 1 point and a -2 in 30 games with just 22 shots on net. I think he's getting a long stretch here to show a little something that he's probably been waiting a couple of years for at the NHL level. And while he's done the job and the role that they're asking him to, I just haven't seen enough for him to say keep them from looking somewhere else to maybe upgrade at that particular spot.
Yeah, I think I probably gave him a C just because he hasn't hurt them.
Yeah.
But he uses his body, and when he hits, people feel it.
Yep.
But there's just not much there. There's one goal in 30 games, no assists. There's just not a ton there, and this may be who he is. He's gotten a chance, and this could be just who he is.
Yep. Derek Forbort, I gave him a B-. When he's been healthy, I think he's been fairly effective in the role that he always plays, killing penalties, shut down defensively, just leaning on guys in the defensive zone. But I'm really concerned the fact that he took a month off to try to calm down the lower body injury. I think it's a groin. And then he came back, played a couple games, and then couldn't play in that last game before the All-Star break. Maybe they were resting him, but I don't know. I think you got to wonder if this is something that's going to be a problem all year, and it's going to factor into what they're going to do at the trade deadline, not knowing, his health-wise, what the certainty is there.
Yeah, I think they have to look on the back end to get a physical player on the back end, no matter how
Yep.
Forbort comes along. But yeah, it is concerning. It was more than a month. I think he almost was out 2 months, and then he comes back, and this has been dogging him since training camp.
Yep.
So yeah, it is a big concern. When he's right, he can be a very good third pairing defenseman. I go back to the playoffs 2 years ago when McAvoy was sick and Lindholm was injured. Forbort and Clifton were a terrific pairing.
Yep.
They were their best pairing, and it's they helped them push a team that dominated them in the regular season to a seventh game. But yeah, I mean, at some point you may have to wonder if he's going to get through that injury this year.
Parker Wotherspoon, I gave him a B. You probably could go even a lot higher than this because he's as a 26-year-old defenseman that's mostly been in the AHL, he's really stepped out and carved a role for himself on this team by just being a steady defenseman and being there when they need him, and being to the point where I think they're probably concerned if they had to send him down to Providence, somebody would take him on waivers because he's been that good. And could play his way into like some kind of role with them moving forward, whether it's a 7th D or whatever. The Bruins talk a lot about like giving opportunities to guys in the AHL and them needing to seize it when they get it, and I think Witherspoon's definitely done that.
Yeah, he's been good. The first couple of games, as you might expect, was a little shaky. But he's been really good since then.
Linus Ullmark, B+. I think he's been very good, not as good as last year. Got hurt, but I think Swayman has outplayed him by a little bit. But like the undeniable strength of the goaltending being the biggest strength on this team, you have to give him a good grade.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know where the high danger chances against are right now for him, but for the first part of the season, he was seeing a lot of them.
Yep.
And he didn't have the basic numbers that he had last year, but he was seeing a ton of rubber, and as I say, the high danger chances against, and he kept the team in games. I think I gave him an A-.
Yep, and Swayman I gave an A. He's having his best season, really breakout campaign, NHL All-Star. Top 3 in goals against average and save percentage, is really took the ball and ran with it when Ullmark got hurt, and he played in like 5 or 6 games in a row or whatever it was. I think you could even go A+ with him because he's been so good.
Yeah, that's probably the most fascinating thing as they go to the playoffs. Are they still so close, Ullmark and Swayman, that they can think about doing that rotation in the playoffs? Because to me, if there's any kind of gap between the two, then you abandon that rotation. To me,
yep.
But it'll be interesting to see if they do remain really close, if they really do go through with the rotation.
Yeah, and I mean, they could have intent of going through with the rotation, right? And if Swayman gets game 1 start and he's lights out in game 1, how are you going to go away from that? Especially if he has, all-star season, great year. It becomes about winning in the playoffs. So the best laid plans could change if they decide there's a better path to winning games. But yeah, I think the whole thing is going to be fascinating. His contract, how they're going to handle them in the playoffs. Whether Swayman's going to get the ball and sort of be allowed to run with it to start, how the kind of role that Ullmark's going to serve and like how that all is going to go down, I think is all extremely interesting. Let's wrap this up, Steve, with just real quick, Montgomery, Sweeney, and Neely, the coaching staff, the front office, and the presidency of the Boston Bruins. I did them all separate, but I gave them all A's. I think Montgomery's having a better year this year, coaching wise, than he did last year when he won the Jack Adams. I think the job that he's done with this team has been excellent. He's pushed buttons when he's had to. He's prodded them when he's had to. We remember the bag skate at practice earlier in the year, and him challenging them a couple times to sort of get where they needed to get to, and they've gotten there, I think, with the way that they're playing now. Don Sweeney had a bunch of great moves in free agency, dealt with the salary cap issues really well, gave this team the pieces that they needed, and that's reflected in the record they had. And Charlie Jacobs, the Bruins organization in general, the centennial season, I think, has been outstanding. I think it's been first class with everything that they've done, every ceremony they've had, and the ideas that they've had, and the way they've presented it, even down to, and I put this in my column, John Michael Lyles was on Twitter the other day, and he got like a little, I think it was a coin or what it was, from the Bruins, and an appreciation of being on the team. And this is a guy that only played a couple years for them and wasn't really a significant piece. But these are going out to every person that played for the Boston Bruins and saying thanks for being a part of the Bruins family and all that. I think it's really cool, and it's a reflection on a really well-run organization.
Yeah, Cam does deserve credit for that. Everything I've heard from former players, that they're blown away with everything. Especially these reunion nights that they've had with the Big Bad Bruins, and then the Lunchbill gang, and most recently the late 80s, early 90s teams. They've spoken very highly of how it's done. And you and I both know that wasn't always the case when they talked about the Bruins.
Yep.
There was always, some sort of resentment or whatnot. And it's not the case right now. And it's good for the Bruins, and it's good for the brand of the Bruins, good for, attracting players, the whole 9 yards. Sweeney, obviously, he's done a really good job of bargain basement, shopping, getting rid of some big ticket items that he probably didn't want to get rid of in Hall and Nick Foligno. And he's picked up guys that I wasn't all excited about, all the pickups at the time, but they've all worked out. So kudos to him. And like I said, Montgomery has really had to coach. Sometimes where you feel like, okay, this line is working, just stick with it. But and then he blows it up. But you have to look at where they are right now, and they are where they are. So he deserves all the credit in the world for it.
Yep, lots of A's from these two professors for the Boston Bruins at the NHL All-Star break. Everything is awesome, as they like to say. Steve, Conroy, thank you very much for joining us for this report card edition of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. Let's thank our sponsors real quick. FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. And that's right in time for the Super Bowl with all the player prop bets and the Taylor Swift bets and everything else out there. So just visit FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up. And Factor Meals, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Meals are done in 2 minutes. Chef made, dietitian approved. Head to factormeals.com/Haggs50. Use code Haggs50 to get 50% off. Steve, thank you very much for joining me from the car. I appreciate it.
All righty.
Thank you very much for out there, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you at the rink.